Welcome to Global Currents, coming to you from the WASC Center for Dialogue in Vancouver. This documentary series presents challenging ideas and fresh approaches to issues in Canada. Hello, I'm Kevin Newman. Each week, our independent documentary film partners bring us stories that stir dialogue. They're a great match for this room of debate. With warnings about the world's dwindling oil supply, a controversial energy source is increasingly being embraced: nuclear power. The same technology that powers atomic weapons like those that destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Few know it, but a mine in the Northwest Territories was instrumental in making those bombs, and now demand has led to its reopening. It means economic opportunity, but it also means painful memories. Filmmaker David Hennison takes us to Somba Ke, the money place, caught between the potential of the future and the lessons of the past.
The story of the making of the atomic bomb, the people involved, and its devastating effects have all been well documented. But few realize where in 1942 the Manhattan Project came looking for the Western world's only proven source of uranium. Or where over 60 years later, the worldwide awakening nuclear renaissance is returning for more.
My old colleagues in Greenpeace thinks that we can phase out both fossil fuels and nuclear energy. Where are they going to get the electricity? You know, and then they start talking about solar panels, and my eyes glaze over because that isn't a logical or feasible thing to do. I'm in the camp that believes that if we actually want to make a serious reduction of fossil fuel consumption for electricity, the only practical solution is a combination of renewables and nuclear.
The nuclear renaissance is turning to Canada, the largest producer and exporter of uranium in the world today. The CEO of Alberta Star, Tim Copeland, is the brother of best-selling author Douglas Copeland, who also happens to be a major shareholder in the company. It has seen its stock price soar from 20 cents to almost $3, an increase of 1,500%, and has become one of the fastest-growing mining exploration companies in North America.
The age of fossil fuels is coming to an end, and what's going to keep the lights on? It's going to be uranium.
The El Dorado mine at Port Radium began its life in 1930 with a strike from a prospector's pick. It broke the Belgian Congo's cartel price on radium, then a miracle cancer cure worth $70,000 a gram. During World War II, the mine figured in the geopolitics of 3 continents, altering the world in the process and ushering the nomadic Dene into the nuclear age. When World War II broke out in 1939, El Dorado was shut down. Radium was reclassified as a non-essential mineral. But the fate of the abandoned mine soon changed dramatically. In 1942, it was nationalized and reopened by the Canadian government. Uranium, a valueless byproduct of radium refining, was suddenly in demand. The top-secret supply of El Dorado uranium was sold to the United States government to fuel the $2 billion Manhattan Project and its efforts to make the first atomic bombs, the dawn of the atomic age.
Sometime around 1928, some prospector, 2 brothers, one name was Gilbert, and then these brothers have discovered a wonderful rock, a queer rock. It was uranium, but at that time there was not much news about uranium. Scientists in the outside world believe that it might be important for the future. All Indian people from Delhi moved to Port Radium area. They have the opportunity to get a few dollars from the workers, the white people they bring in by plane from Fort Smith, from Edmonton, miners to mine the place. And lots of prospectors came on their own. They thought they couldn't get rich around the land. Indians had the opportunity to sell meat. They sell mitts and mudcloths and snowshoes.
The Dene were eventually employed as ore transport workers by the federal government, hauling 45-kilogram burlap sacks of radioactive uranium ore along a 2,100-kilometer transportation network of rivers, lakes, and portages known as the Highway of the Atom. From present-day Fort McMurray, the ore was sent by rail to Port Hope, Ontario for refining. The Dene live in such a remote area of Canada that few knew that World War II had even started, never mind that they had unwittingly handled the ore that ended it. The mine closed down in 1960, the same year that the first Dene ore transport worker died of cancer.
It's a great sorrowful thing to talk about in my family. My first boy, he was about 3 years old. He died of cancer, right in Port Radium. After I moved to Yellowknife, I have a daughter, grade 12. He died in Yellowknife in cancer. My wife also died of cancer in Yellowknife. It could be all developed from Port Radium, staying too long, because we eat fish right around the mine. And steady, we could have some radiation in our body from that kind of life.
My second husband got the cancer, died with the cancer.
That is why my mind was so strong, thinking about a prophecy.
Before the first white man had ventured around Port Radium, a Dene medicine man had a vision. He had seen men with pale skin going into a big hole in the ground near the outcrop of rock where he was camping. The strangers emerged with dangerous rocks and made a long stick out of them. The stick was loaded into a giant bird and dropped on people who looked like Dene but who lived far, far away. All these people burned and later died from this long stick. The prophet also warned his people not to travel in front of the outcrop, to drink the water or catch fish in the waters around the point. Those that did, he explained, would become sick and die. The story was so strange that it was shelved away, relegated to local folklore. It is only now that the meaning of the prophet's words are becoming clear.
Well, way back in the 70s, I would say, my grandfather was still around that time. He used to go hunting and trapping and all that. But when he died I think in 74, he died of bone cancer. And I knew something was wrong.
In 1997, the Delaunay Uranium Committee was formed to investigate why so many of their elders were dying of cancer.
When we first brought the issue of like cancer, where it's coming from and all that, we wrote a letter to the health department, I think, from Inuvik, tell them that there's something wrong here, that our people all the elders are dying of cancer. And they wrote back and said that then people have been smoking all these years, so it has to do with smoking. That was the answer we got back. Around that time, Andrew Nikiforig was here, so he came here and asked questions and wrote about what had happened and all that.
I started to do some investigative work for the Calgary Herald and ended up producing a lengthy series on Highway of the Atom in northern Canada. The article in the Herald broke the story about the contamination and the impact of the mine on the health of people living in Delaunay, as well as the impact of the mine on the health of white workers who worked at Port Radium. And what I found in looking through a number of documents in both the United States and in Canada was that the United States recognized that it exposed a lot of workers and a lot of Aboriginal folks to unnecessary dangers in uranium mining as part of the war effort, and let those dangerous conditions continue long until around the 1960s. The US government came clean and said, look, you know, we screwed up. We exposed all these people to radon. We shouldn't have done it, and we knew better, but you know, we were concerned about scaring people off in the middle of the war, and we wanted to keep the mines in production. The Canadian government has never come clean on what happened at Port Radium. And after the story ran, I was amazed at the number of calls I got from white miners who had worked in Port Radium and who were all reporting health problems. I got many calls from widows who explained to me that their husbands have died of cancer. Uranium was mined and then it was transported and it worked all its way to Port Hope in Ontario. And wherever that uranium went, it left a messy legacy. This highway, so-called Highway of the Atom that the Canadian government established and supported, and there were a lot of casualties on it. And the Canadian government has never looked at the casualty rates on this uranium highway.